Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Mystic's Mirror. I'm Jazz, and if you're here, it's for a reason. Now, if you would like to subscribe, share, comment, I would love to hear about your own deep spiritual journey. This particular series of readings are for deep spiritual growth. I know that they're a little longer. I hope that you're here and that you learned something from it. It is to open up our inner worlds, right? Because by opening up and healing our inner worlds, we end up healing things, in our more 3D lives, right? So if things don't feel like they're coming to you the way that you want them, a great place to start is this deep inner healing. So what I do is I'll pick a quote, mystical text, something that's been really speaking to me lately. And then I do a Black Mirror scry. Actually, I don't always do it in that order. Today I did the Black Mirror scry, which inspired the quote that I picked. And then we'll do our readings. Today's decks, the tarot deck is the Phantom Wise Tarot. This oracle deck is the Samhain Seasons of the Witch Oracle deck. We'll use that as sort of our signifier instead of the Archetypes deck, since we're in the spooky season. This is the Nicoletta Ciccoli Oracle deck. Very powerful, very, you'll see if you haven't seen it before. And then, of course, my Dixit storytelling cards. And then I will pull a few of these tea leaf cards as well. So today in the Black Mirror, as I was meditating on the collective consciousness, I got an image of those, those drama masks that you see, they're like face masks, and one's like sad and one's happy. They were like flipping through very quickly. And so one's laughing, one's crying, one was happy, one was sad, and they were just plain white masks. So we'll see where we go with that. The quote today that sort of inspired, but has also just been on my mind a lot. So I feel like it's not for nothing, right? Sorry, I forgot to turn my timer on. It's attributed to Franz Kafka. I'm not going to guarantee that he's the one who said it, because who knows, but it goes, "I was ashamed of myself when I realized life was a costume party, and I attended with my real face." So I'm a little scratchy today. It's been really wet and rainy here. I was ashamed of myself when I realized life was a costume party, and I attended with my real face. I thought these decks were kind of theatrical for the day, because, that's the idea, right? How sometimes life can be theater, whether we want it to be or not. Let's pull 3 tea leaf cards. I'm reminded of how easy it is to get caught up in the fact that life, I guess like in the sort of which one is it? I guess we're doing 2 from this one. That life, especially if you're really involved with the culture that you're in, we're expected to wear so many masks, right? We never get to, especially if you're an introvert, a lot of times it can just feel like you never get a chance to just let it all hang out, just kind of being yourself. With the Dixit cards, we're really going to talk today. Prepare yourselves. Those things can be a little rough. All right. So we have all that. We'll get to the tarot in a minute. Collective energies. I was ashamed of myself when I realized life was a costume party, and I attended with my real face. Frog. May the lily beneath your breast allow you to drink from its healing waters. Be still there in serenity behind the drowning croaks. In context of this, it makes me think of the Princess and the Frog, right? The frog was actually a prince, and he was turned into a frog. So he was presenting to the world like this little bitty amphibian, but really he was one of the most powerful people, right? Elders. Birthed from seed within the belly of the moon, they are the wise felt touches over our hearts and felt deep within the marrow of our spirits. We have kind of a crone here holding the moon. I think there's a lot that we can learn from the elders, from the crones. If you're, thinking about the fact that the older you get, a lot of times the more you're able to strip away all of those, facades and masks, obviously, that you put on when you're younger. Because when you're young, you're conditioned very early that what other people say is often more important than what you feel or think or believe. And it trains you at a young age to go against your own intuition. And you know what? Your soul knows better. Your heart knows better. So questioning, whenever you get strong emotions, especially negative emotions, questioning why you have them. Are they there because there's actually a negative situation happening? Or are they there, but really objectively the situation's not a big deal if you just had self-confidence, right? So what is it about the situation? Like, say you're out and at the store or something and someone's kind of giggling and looking at you. Now, that can make you self-conscious, right? Why are you self-conscious? What are you scared they're saying? And if they are saying something, did their words hold any weight with you? You don't know them. You don't know their life. In fact, you don't even know for sure whether they're actually giggling at you or not, right? Could be looking. And if they were, and even if someone were to come up and say something rude to you, who are they? They don't know you. They don't know your life. You have no obligation to take their opinion into account. Opinion neither desired nor required, as Noxzema Jackson said in Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. Oh, look at that. This image makes me think of two things. First of all, protection, as in, what are you protecting yourself from by wearing these masks? And are you brave enough to start pulling it back in the way she was? Showing our real faces in a society that really wants superficiality is hard. When I started this page, this YouTube channel, I was really scared to show my face. I don't look like a YouTube model or whatever, but I knew, I was like, I can't compare. This is my heart, my soul, my vision of sharing these deep spiritual messages with other people. I'm not going to let something like a random person who might criticize me in the comments stop that, because who are they? In fact, the kind of people who do that, who judge people by their looks, who go online and troll people over these kinds of things, those are the kind of people, when I think and I see them, I'm like, oh man, they're hurting. They're hurting so bad, because you only lash out like that against people who are not bothering you. If you go into someone else's space and you start lashing out at them, boy, that shows a deep core wound, doesn't it? So I also like this picture with the metamorphosis with the butterflies and even with the bees. Bees are actually keep bees. I have 2 hives. They're so wonderful, but also, yeah, they can be feisty, right? They have their stingers. So protect your true self. Let yourself grow. Your true self isn't necessarily it shouldn't be a stagnant idea. And society tries to tell us, oh, who are you? And you're supposed to tell, oh, who are you? I'm number 1. I'm number 2. I'm number 3. I'm number 4. No. You're allowed. In fact, a lot of times it's great to just let yourself be mysterious. You know why? Because first of all, you keep people guessing, and that's fun. Sort of like the halo effect or the Marilyn Monroe effect. But you also don't lock yourself in to one identity and then feel like you have to stick with that identity even when you've outgrown it. So let your identity be malleability, adaptability, strong in your values, but letting yourself evolve, right? Your soul, your core, your spark is always going to be there. It might get buried, it might get covered, but it's always there, and it's always there for you to reach. So I like this because also it reminds me of like in the past, I've had my fair share of heartbreaks. I guess I'm going to quote Tu Wong Fu a lot today because Chi Chi says, I have a broken heart for every light on Broadway. And so when your heart gets broken because you let yourself be very vulnerable to this person, but then they didn't reciprocate or they used your vulnerability and those deep things you shared against you, you get real scared. And a lot of people, they let that harden their hearts. And I would say, first of all, your true self is such a treasure. Only offer it to people who deserve it. Do not harden your soft heart. Rather, build a barrier around it that has a strict no entry policy until people have proven that they are safe to see the treasure of your heart. Like Hafez says in another one of his poems, he says, run like hell, my dear, from anyone who wants to put a knife into the vision of your tender heart, or something like that. You are a treasure. You are a spark. And if you're here on this channel, you are an explorer. You are a mystical traveler. You know that we have to wear masks, but you don't want to become the mask. And it's so easy to do that. Vase. Secret admirer. We'll get that. You know what? It's so funny. I feel like we got this Wind Chimes Peace and Harmony last. We're getting a lot of repeat cards. Considering there's like hundreds of cards in these decks, I feel like that there's a specific person who's going to be watching these at some point and maybe see multiple in order, and it'll just be a validation, right? Because in our last two readings, we had cards that repeated as well. Boat, money or property through an inheritance, winning or windfall. Vase, secret admirer. Now, I don't always go with what the cards actually say on these. So for vase, I'm thinking about flowers, obviously, that go in a vase. We have definitely a lot of flower motifs going on here. Now, with the idea of wearing a mask and letting it go, don't sell your identity for the idea of a relationship that may or may not be real. Let me explain. So if you meet somebody, it can be our instinct, especially because every movie we've ever seen, a lot of our conditioning from this world is like, oh, I got to do everything I can to put on my best face, my best mask, right? You're masking, trying to make sure that they like you because you got a crush on them, or you think, but how much of it is what they're really showing you, and how much of it is you starting to get involved in a fantasy about what it could be and falling in love with that, right? And that's why I always say you got to fall in love with yourself first. If you want peace and harmony, fall in love with yourself first. I have one of my best friends. Well, she's my sister, my best friend, my sister. She says she has this policy about when she dates that she picked out when she was like, that she started when she was like 16. And she said, I never fantasize about anybody I'm dating. And you know what? It has served her so well, because that means she's never overlooking red flags. She's never masking just to be liked, right? And the other thing that she said is that she always was going to just focus on her own life and not let someone else interfere with what's going on in her life, which has also served her well in her relationships, right? Because anytime she gets in a relationship, she's like, I'm living my life. And if you meet the standard, then I'll open up, the door for you, and you can be yourself and I can be myself and we can be together. But, I'm not going to become you, or I'm not going to become your servant, or I'm not going to become, because usually it happens so slowly we don't realize it. We're like, oh, well, this is just compromising. A lot of times it's not compromising. A lot of times it might be actually giving up an important part of your values or identity, but you let go of them one teeny tiny thing at a time until suddenly you don't recognize yourself in a relationship, right? And with the boat here, I get two things. Number one, you're scared to rock the boat, right? Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby, rock the boat. Okay, anyway, I digress. You're afraid to rock the boat because we've been kind of told, we've been programmed in such a way where it feels like if you do anything out of character or out of accepted norms, that it almost feels like you're going to die, right? Not literally, but like it feels like emotional death. What a terrible thing to teach people, because obviously individuality is what makes the world interesting. The greatest minds weren't like, I'm going to do everything exactly like everyone else is. No, we get the greatest ideas and stuff from people who challenge these things, right? Frog is also, I think, very relevant right now. If you want to kind of look at the stage with the, if you're watching this in the future sometime, right now there's the frogs, people in frog costume standing up to the ICE agents in Portland, right? Frogs, they're people in costume, in mask, playing a role. But the role is to show the manufactured nature of what is going on in our reality right now. How basically society itself is trying to create a mask through media to tell you rather than let you witness what's going on, right? Yeah. And so in an interesting way, at this time in history, the frog is a symbol of standing up against inauthenticity. And weirdly, it's almost like inverse, right? These frogs are like, in a way, these people's real faces, because these people are real brave people facing down adversity. Dixit cards. We have these ballerina shoes. There's like a cobweb there. They look very clean and nice. I'm feeling like childhood hopes and dreams with that. We have this compass, and it's on a map. The map is fraying at the edges. We have this braid, the gold ring. It's very interesting, actually. Oh my goodness, you can't get more relevant than this. One white bloom and a field of red. These look like poppies, maybe. Makes me think of that scene in The Wizard of Oz when they go through the poppies and fall asleep. And boy, doesn't this harken back to what I was saying about the frog earlier. This is how it feels, right? But really, the power is always in us. I got the power. Oh my goodness. Wow. This is so relevant to me right now, and I'll explain in a minute. Wow. I'll talk more about that. Okay, so let's go through this step by step. This card tells me that a lot of times, well, it kind of goes back to what I was saying in my last video about Carl Jung talking about Robert Bly, who was a Jungian psychologist, was talking about this shadow bag. So basically dreams, or impulses that you have when you're young. So your shadow bag, which is basically all your repressed stuff, can have positive and negative things. So like a little girl might say, I dream of being a ballerina. And her parents are like, no, you don't have the body for that. No, it's a waste of time and money to send you to ballet lessons. So you put that into your shadow bag and you're like, okay, well, that was a stupid dream. No, it wasn't. Now, are you going to guarantee to be the best ballerina in the world? No, but that goes back to the idea that you're only valuable if what you produce, if what you create produces profit in some way, right? No, it's okay to dance just because you want to dance and not think of a way to monetize it, right? One thing about my channel is I just want to share things. If someday in the future it gets monetized, sure, anyone could use a little extra money in this economy, but that's not the goal. If I only ever get 20 viewers, you know what? That's fine. And you know why? Because this message will reach who it needs to reach. That's the important part. And I don't want the idea of money to change the message because I'm subconsciously like, oh, I have to do this to keep an audience or whatever. I want to stay true to the message. So this is when you're talking about taking the mask off, obviously only around people who deserve to see your true face. What are those things that you've repressed that are the true self? Can you remember who you are under the mask? They make us wear the mask so much. Who are you under the mask? Spend some quiet time with yourself. Challenge yourself to spend 5 minutes a day in silence, and don't shy away from what you see or hear. Some of it's gonna feel uncomfortable. I mean, some scary stuff might come up, but I highly recommend 5 minutes a day. There's this old saying that says, meditate for 20 minutes a day. And if you don't have time, meditate for an hour. Now, if you start with that, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But, 5 minutes a day, stop and think about yourself. Think about who you are. What are your ethics? What are your values? When are times in the past when the body tells you? So when's a time in the past where your body gave you signals that you started feeling nauseated when you were talking to someone? Was it because you were compromising some important value in order to keep the mask on? That looks, I'm sorry, I got distracted. There's a giant German Shepherd walking around my yard. I think I should go figure out who that belongs to. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. I think it's he's from the next neighborhood. He comes over sometimes. And I have teeny tiny dogs, so I'm just always careful. But it's very rainy, so my dog's inside today. So anyway, a dog coming up in the middle, dog came up in our last reading. It means protection. So I think that reiterates the idea to protect your true self, but just don't become the mask that you use that protects your true self. Make sure that behind any masks, behind any walls you build for safety, that your core self is someone that you know, okay? Don't lose your way, right? We all feel frayed around the edges, but you are too important to get lost in all the masks and all the fray, right? It feels like, sort of like the frog against the soldiers or whatever. It feels like you're just this tiny child, and your shadow and societal conditioning and even family conditioning and intergenerational curses and things like that you have to break. It feels like this monstrous dragon. But when you look really close, this thing is kind of goofy looking, right? It's not breathing fire. I mean, I'm sure it's dangerous for a little kid, but look how brave he is, And I would almost say to me that I'm thinking like, maybe this is just a puppet or something. And so we often get very terrified and scared about things. Like I say in my videos, like manufactured things. And society will manufacture chaos. Other people will manufacture chaos. You'll manufacture chaos because you were taught to. What can you do to extract yourself from getting enmeshed in other people's manufactured chaos? It all comes down to healing yourself inwardly and not accepting shitty behavior from people who don't even deserve your time of day. So it's so much about elevating yourself, your true self, to the point where you're untouchable by manipulators, by confused people who manipulate you because of their own inner pain and their own lack of inner work. You deserve to find peace, to rest, to be different without feeling like there's something wrong with it. A giant field of red flowers is beautiful. That one flower in the middle, not only is it a different color, so you're like, ooh, I'm very intrigued, but it hasn't even opened yet. It is protecting its core. You're going to have to wait, and you're going to have to prove yourself before this flower is going to open for you, right? And if that's the case, then the mystery, the magic that's inside is going to be even more exciting and more enchanting. And that's who you are. Don't lay all your cards on the table at once. There's a lot of people out there that you use that crap against you. And you are just too precious to waste your energy and your time on making the mask your identity in order to make someone else comfortable who's not even going out of their way to be kind to you or to be comfortable for you. Because the right people in your life are never going to ask you to wear masks around them. They're going to put you at ease by proving over a long period of time, not love bombing, but over a long period of time, that they are safe people. And you deserve that. This card, I think of braids. I'm thinking, I'm sorry, I probably keep tapping the microphone with my arm. Apologies if the sound gets weird. I think of entanglement once again, these threads woven together. Now, it can be very healthy to have two people's lives, wrapped around each other, but it can also be a trap, right? It can be tight. It can be stuck. It can make it where you can't move. And with this ring, I think about how many people, and it's right here by this Crone Elders card, how many people, especially women, but it can be anyone, that marriage itself becomes the mask and the identity that a person becomes. And when that ring is there and it's trapping these people that are enmeshed or they become codependent, that the thing that can be beautiful and entwining, in one of my tarot decks, the Shadowscapes Tarot, the Two of Cups card, are two figures wrapped around each other. And it's so beautiful. It's like, to me, the ultimate soulmate card of any deck that I ever have used. And so in that sense, you get, oh, we're entwined, but we're separate beings. But here it's saying, make sure that when you get in a relationship or you get married, once those romantic emotions get involved, it's so easy to try and claim an identity that's not yours, because society says, oh, well, it's sort of like this thing that I read where it's like, why is it that a man will fall in love with a woman who dresses up and does her nails and looks beautiful, but then once they get married, he's like, I don't want you to do that anymore, because he's afraid like other men will look at her. Well, you fell in love with her because she was vibrant and stuff. Why would you want to take that away? So when it comes to keeping your true face and not giving in to the mask or adopting an identity, because like I said, these things can happen so subtly. You can get so obsessed with like, oh, I need to be in a relationship and things like that, because society has told you that, and you just get into one because it feels like, once again, there's this book called The Verbally Abusive Relationship, and I wish she'd called it something else, because there's just a lot of good points in there that people might not read if they're thinking, oh, I'm not in a verbally abusive relationship. One of them is this concept of reality 1 and reality 2. Reality 1 is the concept that most people of my generation and older were raised in, which is the idea that of power over. So basically, if you're not on the top, having power over other people, then you're below them. So in this way, it's a very authoritarian sort of an idea. Reality 2 is the kind of age of Aquarius, the reality that where we move from power over to co-creation. So the idea is like, oh, there's a problem. Let's both, as mature, emotionally developed people, just talk it out, right? And I've found in the past when I have dated people who are still in reality 1, that when there's a problem, they freak out and they just override you. And I'm not saying everyone's like this, but they might override you. It's their way or the highway, even though they say they're compromising. And, you deserve to be, and I'm not just talking about like a romantic relationship, but in any relationship you're in, you deserve to be able to have a light heart. You deserve to be able to be yourself. You have a right to express your feelings, and there's never a wrong feeling. There's only unhelpful reactions, right? And you're allowed to say, oh, I felt ignored earlier. And your partner might be like, in a power over situation, like, nuh-uh, I've been here with you all day. What are you talking about? I'm always here. Ugh, you're always complaining about it. Obviously, that dynamic is so toxic. So then you question yourself. And you're like, wait, am I asking too much? And then once again, where they call it death by 1,000 tiny cuts. So each one of those is fine until one day you're like, oh my God, I'm bleeding everywhere. And so if you have 2 people who are in reality 2, it would be like, hey, I felt really ignored earlier. Can we talk about it? And the other person would be like, oh yeah, please tell me about it. And then you would tell them and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I really didn't intend that. In the future, I'll make sure to pay attention and give you that if it's what you need. So that feeling was not invalid. So invalidating having your feelings invalidated is a red flag that maybe you need to reevaluate whether that relationship, whether it's a friendship or whatever, is worth your time. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life fighting just to prove that your feelings are okay to feel? Now, that doesn't mean you say like, I feel like you are cheating on me or something like that. And then there's no evidence for it. And then you like start emotionally punishing them. Well, then you're the power over problem, right? So obviously it comes with balance. Okay. The reason this card's really special. So if you know Ma'et, the Egyptian goddess, when you die, she takes your heart and she puts it against a feather, on a scale. And if your heart is heavier than the feather, I think you maybe get eaten by a crocodile or something. I can't remember. Forgive me if I'm like totally ruining mythology here. But anyway, so your heart needs to be lighter than a feather. This is a bag of money and it's lighter than the feather, right? And what this makes me think of, because obviously this is backwards, this is topsy-turvy. I heard a narcissistic specialist psychologist one time say this thing where he said, when you're with a narcissist, what's good is bad and what's bad is good. And that's what this is. Our society is like this, right? They want to replace your heart with the idea of production, of money, that's more important than anything else. And they're saying, oh, this is better than liberation. This is better than salvation. This is better than peace. Wear the mask and then internalize the mask that I'm a productive member of the capitalist society. Now let me internalize that until I can't even remember what my own heart looks like. My heart is a bag of money. And what use is that at the end of your life, right? Look at all these billionaires, right? What use is all that going to be when it comes time to face whatever comes after? All right, let's look at your tarot cards. Oh, I'll mix them up again. The Knight of Swords. The Ace of Cups. The Queen of Wands. The Emperor. I've been seeing the Emperor a lot lately. Oh, I forgot. This is especially important to me lately because I'm writing a book, actually. And this actually It's a really important element of the book. So I was like, whoa, the King of Wands. You know, we've got this King and Queen of Wands energy here. The Seven of Swords. The Queen of Cups. Wow. So some of you might feel like, oh, if I wear a mask at all, I'm being deceptive. That's not true, right? We all have the masks that we wear in order to function in regular society. You know, like I said, be your authentic self, but understand that sometimes you have, sort of like the idea of like, oh, sometimes I like to cuss like a sailor, but if I'm in front of kids, I'm not going to cuss like a sailor, right? Just don't lose yourself in the mask. And in this one, I feel like the Emperor, especially because it's sitting here on these kind of like binding cards. It's representing the system that we're in and how much that you might not realize it is influencing. Its conditioning is influencing who you think you are, like what your identity is. And the truth is you are not any of the labels or specific event, like you are this divine, vibrant energy beneath it that is here to be curious and to explore and to feel even the hard things. You're here to feel the myriad of emotions. And, you know, it's that thing where it's like, if you can't, like the amount, it's like a pendulum. The amount of joy you can feel is equal to the amount of pain you've felt, right? So like, if you felt this amount of pain in your life, then you can feel this amount of joy. I went through extreme trauma, so my pain and joy thing is like this. That pendulum swings wide. I'm not sure I recommend it because it takes a lot more work to, you know, become more even. All right, and we have the King and Queen of Wands here. I feel very like magnetic, powerful energy, and that is what your spark truly is this magnetic, powerful energy that you know is there, and the fire of the wands that can cut through. Usually you're thinking like with the sword over here, the sword cuts through illusion. This cuts through the emotional conditioning, right? This is your passions. By embodying the height of your passions, you have a new opportunity to not only enjoy the emotional depth and have your cup overflow, but you have the capacity to become so emotionally stable, like I said earlier, untouchable, whether you're wearing a mask or not. And I think it, you know, it reminds me a lot of how like you can we're often taught to overshare, right? Leave the mystery there. Sometimes you just want to leave a little bit of mystery there. Because once again, you don't want someone else closing you into a box before you're so strong within yourself that that's impossible. If you're still feeling like you're fresh on the journey, or you have low self-esteem or low confidence, or you're unsure who you are, you keep that stuff locked down in yourself until you are strong in that. And then you can reveal it to safe people. And then you can reveal it, because then you'll be so strong in it that even naysayers and assholes and stuff can't shake you. You'll be untouchable. Look at that. I love this. It's sort of like, reminds me of like when you're in flow, right? The flow state is, this card is peace. And like we have another boat, but rather than being like an arc looking thing or don't rock the boat, this is like smooth sailing. So use the mask, recognize that it's a mask, and recognize that the people around you are wearing masks. And reveal, like first get strong in your own identity, and then reveal it to the people who deserve to see it. Your magnificence, don't throw your pearls before swine. Your magnificence is not, you know, that doesn't mean you can't walk around in your glory and brilliance, but don't give people the time of day who don't deserve it, right? You can be kind and hold good boundaries. Yes. This is that thing I was saying. Other people are also wearing masks. Don't forget who is a wolf in sheep's clothing. A lot of people are really good at giving the impression that they're a nice person or kind person or giving person until they get the power over you. Then suddenly the true colors come out. So don't let yourself become a victim to that. Don't lose yourself. And to this too, I'm thinking a lot about like inner child. Don't abandon your inner child. When you get very emotional, like I said, it's an alarm. It's saying something's wrong or something needs to be, no, not something's wrong. Something needs to be looked at. A lot of us who didn't have great parents, we have to learn to be our own parents. We have to reparent ourselves as adults. So when you're getting those overwhelming emotions, you might start speaking in the voice of the people who hurt you when you were young, or I don't know, even as an adult. Oh, I'm so stupid, blah, blah, blah. No, stop that right now. Change that. And when you feel those emotions, instead of saying those mean things, say, I'm here for you. I'm going to comfort you. I love you. Talk to yourself like you would talk to yourself as a child who went through something scary. And if you can't picture it for yourself, picture a child you know and think about how you would talk to them if they were hurting emotionally, right? Wow. Full circle, right? This child with all these toys in a window. We're talking about the conditioning. This is like a storefront window, right? This child and all his toys are on display. When we're kids, we are at the whims of the people around us, right? We're at the whims of the adults around us, of the conditioning. And so that's why we repress that. We push our little child selves deep into the woods, and then we start trusting the wrong people because that's what we're conditioned to do. But your birthright is this: the calm, the peace, the smooth sailing. When you learn to manage your mask, when you learn to manage your inner journey, like I said, you'll know when to wear the masks and and who deserves to see the true you underneath. But the most important part is you'll have your peace and you'll be untouchable emotionally by anyone who wishes to disparage you. Detachment is not ignoring, repressing, or pushing people away. Detachment is true love. Detachment says, I love you right where you are, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let you violate my boundaries, because detachment also means I love myself just like I am. And I'm not attached to any specific outcome because I know the universe has what's best for me in store. And St. John of the Cross, who wrote The Dark Night of the Soul, what he talks about in it is that basically he uses, it's Christian mysticism, so this is going to be Christian example, but remember, mysticism is across all the boards. You know, this is basically, he's like, oh, sometimes in our life we just get so lost in the dark night of the soul. We can't see up from down. We have no idea what's happening or what's going on. We just are confused and we don't know what to do. And he says when that happens, what you're supposed to do is let go. Because what it means is that, you know, God or the universe, whatever, is working to fix your life. You can also look at it as like your subconscious is working on something deep, but you will sabotage it. So you are blinded to whatever that work is. That's why a lot of times after Dark Night of the Soul, you have a huge revelation. And you're like, I wasn't working on that. Well, yes, you were. Your subconscious was, the universal consciousness was. So, my friends, thank you for joining me today. I hope this helped you. If it did, please leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. I also post mini whimsy shorts every day, little tiny inspirations to just, especially if you're not feeling great and stuff, if you just want 1 minute a day to just do something a little fun and whimsical, it can help you get back in touch with your inner child a little bit. Because when was it that we were told we're not allowed to play anymore? I think that's the day when the mask starts gluing itself to our faces, right? Yeah. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve this. Be well, my friends. Until next time.